Alright, you're Lock here again. It's February 6th, 2017, and my lesson here today is entitled Queen of Heaven. And I'm just showing here again with some more information that people, as I mentioned in past couple videos, that people made up gods as time went on because they did not want to serve the Most High, right? They didn't want to acknowledge the Creator. And the reason why I'm doing this is, as I've mentioned in the past couple of videos and also in my Adam videos that I'm making in Eden videos, is that when I was in the religion of Christianity, everything boiled down to demons and spirits, with that master spirit being Satan, the Christian Satan, although he supposedly existed before Christianity. And one wonders too, since he was supposedly around as some supposed equal to God, but just being evil, why is it that Christianity is the one that seems to own him now more than any other religion, right? When Christianity came later. But I'm showing here that, or I'm considering these things because when I was in that religion, everything came down to this master spirit Satan, and we were even taught that he was just as powerful to God, but on the other side, and then later I guess it got changed. No, well, the Most High, the Creator, is more powerful than him, but he still has a lot of power and so on, right? But as I look at, and also that, he's a fallen angel and he took 1/3 of the angels with him when he fell from heaven and so on. And so he's got all these angels here to make a powerful empire of evil, and everything that's happening to you is coming from him. But as I read the Bible more and more, I find that these gods aren't fallen angels. Now, as I continue to read and study and read the Bible, if I find that, then I'm going to bring that up. But so far, I'm finding that the gods were made up by men. I haven't found any reason to believe that Anunnaki came from someplace like on another planet or in another galaxy here, right? And that fallen angels were doing all this kind of stuff. I mean, it looks pretty bad that the Most High made this earth, and then he lost the earth, or he lost Adam and lost Eve, lost what he was doing in the Garden of Eden, had to scrap his pen, had to hurry up and hide the tree of life, couldn't supposedly keep the tree of knowledge properly, lost the nation of Israel, lost Israelites, and now they became Gentiles, and he even loses heaven, or a good part of it, 1/3 of his angels that he worked so hard. It's like, something is just strange about the whole thing. It's just really strange, right? But when now that I'm rereading for myself, I'm finding out that the Creator is actually in control. And these things aren't really happening the way that we've been taught. Someone has been, in a crafty kind of way for thousands of years, teaching the people of the earth different things about the Creator. No wonder he says in so many different places, I'm going to sanctify myself and my great name, which you have polluted, and so on, and then the heathen will know me, and so on, right? Basically, he says, I'm doing this for my name's sake. I'm going to show myself. This whole world is going to see me and know me. Finally, they're going to know me. Why? Because somebody's been teaching some wrong things about me and some wrong things about the earth. They've been teaching some wrong things, giving you some false idea of who I am. Right? As if I'm a God that's just not in control. I'm losing everything. I'm losing Eden. I'm losing Israel. I'm losing whatever, right? I mean, even in the case of Israel, the Most High isn't losing Israel per se. Because when you read the scriptures, you have to understand it the way that it's really meant, right? And that takes some more studying and considering of different scriptures and so on. What he's doing is simply, he's giving Israel a time of punishment, not to get rid of Israel permanently, but to save Israel. In order to have the nation of Israel, he cannot lose the nation of Israel permanently. So he puts them into captivity, basically teach them a lesson, give them some time to purge themselves, they're being purged, and to reconsider their ways. And once they go through all this kind of punishment, he'll wake us up, we'll return to him, and he saves his nation that way. But if he had left us alone to continue in our many transgressions, and we did not turn, and he just did nothing and just left us like that, then he would have lost the nation, because we would have just been permanently locked into evil and never want to turn, never want to change, because we keep getting his blessings all the time. But a time of punishment, a long time of punishment, gets us to rethink our ways. And he says, when you come to your mind, when you come to your senses, then you turn back to me, right? So by so doing, it seems to small thinking that he's losing his nation. No, he's purging his nation so he can get the nation that he said he would have. And so what I find is that misunderstanding of the scriptures has people thinking that there are all these spirits that fall from heaven from time to time and are being worshipped and so on. As time goes on, I'm going to give some more information about what I think about that, right? And like I said, I'm looking into it. Once I find out more stuff, I'll just share it, right? But these are just my thoughts. I said in the past couple of videos on dealing with idols and gods and so on, is that people made these gods up. And here, again, I'm going to show some more information on this. From this book I've got here, Cultures of the World, and this one is talking about Greece. And here what it says here on page 74 and 75. This part here is titled, From the Peak of Mount Olympus. The gods of Greek mythology represented the attempt of a highly imaginative people to account for the world of nature and the facts of life when science was nearly unknown. Now that's what I'd already said in the past couple of videos, right? That people were making up, they're imagining these gods. And no wonder the Most High had said, yeah, basically he's destroying the earth because all the imaginations of men's hearts are only evil continually. They're imagining things. They don't want to think about the Creator, don't want him on their mind, so they imagine and they make up all this stuff. And it's saying here, in the case of the Greeks from ancient times, they were highly imaginative people and they imagined, they made up these gods. That's what they're trying to tell you, right? Because the ancient Greeks had no explanation for the moon and the stars moving across the sky at night, or thunder in the heavens when it rained, they invented the gods and goddesses to explain these phenomena. And that's what I've pointed out before. They made these things up. So even in the case of the Greeks here, what they're trying to tell you here is that the Greeks themselves in their history are letting you know no Anunnaki or fallen angel came and did these things. The people's own history from their mouth, like they said, the horse's mouth, they're telling you themselves that they made up these things by imagining with their mind. If spirits come, fallen angels come, people don't have to imagine because they come and appear to you in some spiritual kind of form that can be seen as some kind of light or something, or in a physical form. These things aren't coming to them and getting out of some sort of spacecraft or however they want to appear, or just appearing and disappearing after they talk to them. Like appearing and working some miracles, showing them that they can fly and that they can walk through walls and all kinds of stuff, and then teach them things and then disappear. No, they're not telling you that. What they're saying is that they imagined these things themselves. They imagined. So they imagined these things to explain the other things that they could not understand in nature, right? Weaknesses and virtues of human nature were reflected in the stories of myths about the deities, which date back to as early as 700 BC. And that would have been about the time of even like Isaiah prophesying, right? So Israel was still up and running, although they were kind of winding down, getting closer to the days when they would be going into the major captivities that, took us down, right? But you still had prophets prophesying at the times when these Greeks are still coming up with these stories that they imagined in their mind. So they're basically telling you here that the weaknesses and virtues of human nature, note that, not weaknesses and virtue of spirits or of fallen angels, right? Like the weaknesses or strengths of these Anunnaki or angels that fell from heaven or came from outer space or wherever. No, not their weaknesses and strengths, but the weaknesses and strengths of humans, of people, were placed into stories that they made up to explain certain things. That's what they're saying. So if people were weak, let's say they were weak in war, how can I say it now? If they weren't great fighters, or if they didn't believe in fighting and killing, just like they say, like the people of Lemuria, they weren't really fighters per se. So they would, because that was their weakness, because they didn't believe in harming and killing people, apparently the story is saying, then their weakness is war, because they don't fight, they don't kill. But their strength might be in loving and with brotherhood and caring for each other in their societies and so on, right? And they did a lot of building and building tunnels underground and whatever. And, so those things, their weaknesses and strengths would be put into their stories that they made up about their gods. So they would imagine a god. Oh, this great god of Andromeda or whatever other name you want to make up for some fake galaxy that they got out there. They would say this particular god came from that place. And he's our strength because he is a god of war and he fights for us because we cannot. He fights for us. Yeah, so he fights for us. And then they make up another god and say, because they are strengths now where they like to build and they can do great stonework and all that kind of stuff. They would make up a god for that and said that's the God that gives us the know-how to build and the smartness to build and whatever, right? And so that God gets worshipped in that way because he helps the people build and focus and look forward to, bettering their society and so on, right? So the strengths and weaknesses of these imagined gods were put into stories that were then taught to the people and taught and passed on to children and children and children, right? After each generation, until it gets so long that it's now known as myth and it seems real to some people. I always wondered as a very small child, the first time I started hearing these stories in school and more so on TV, that these gods always seem strange in these Greek mythology stories. They always seem strange. But the first time I heard about the Creator, even though it was from a Christian perspective, I never thought that's strange. Naturally, there was something in me that gravitated toward the story of a single creator that is the creator of us all and of all these things we see, like the trees and the dirt and whatever, right? Naturally, that just fits. It clicks. But these other stories of these other gods, something just came on me right away, right? Because people are like that. You normally will reject the stuff because it's alien to you, like when you eat stuff and it's not good for your body rejects it, you start to throw up or you run to the bathroom. Normally, it's people who find clever ways to ignore these things, and they push the limit and then they teach society, and through the power of your mind, you adjust to it. Even in the time when Israel was still having their prophets prophesying, these stories are still being made up by the Greeks, to add to all these other myths that were there even before them. These myths were passed down from generation to generation through storytelling and poetry. And somebody thinks, oh, because we found some ancient scrolls or stele, that means this and that was true. No, it just means somebody wrote it. Just means somebody wrote it down. Now, yeah, it's like if I'm dreaming, I want some super expensive car, like a $2 million car one day. Nice sports car, whatever, right? Lots of fancy features in it and so on, and expensive tires and whatever that, And I just stop saying I'm dreaming of this car, or maybe I want to build a car, something like that, and I write down, I will build this car one day and set up a company, whatever, right? And then one day as I start dreaming and working towards my goal so much, but I'm probably still far from it, then I stop saying I will build it and I start trying to affirm it and say I have built it. So I'm taking it on more, right? Because I'm working towards my goal, and while I'm still far, I can feel that, I'm making some changes and I'm moving closer to it. I built this car and I built this company out of it. Now all kinds of world war happened and whatever, and all kinds of stuff happened, and everything gets broken down and new companies start to come up. Now one day, like 200 years later, 300, 400 years later, people find this stuff that I wrote and whatever. I'm like, oh, this guy named so-and-so, he built this company and this kind of car. Now everybody is saying I built it, but I never did, and no such company existed. But they start digging, trying to find, where's this model car? Like, whoa, like that was a bad car back in those days, 400 or 500 years ago. They want to rebuild it, but they want to see how it was actually built because they're trying to find one now. But it was never built. I just said I built this car because I'm working up my mind and my everything, my passions, everything to build that car and build that company. So because somebody wrote stuff, about a God that came from some space planet or whatever and came in the form of a snake or whatever, doesn't mean it happened, right? And the problem is that they've got all these stories with all these gods that appeared, but today nobody is having these gods appear before them. Why these gods don't show up on TV? Why you don't use your cell phone camera and capture these gods in a very clear way, and in addition to that, have them do stuff where it's in public and the public cannot deny, police showing up, all kinds of government authorities showing up, and it's just very, 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 very clear. Not these strange stories about aliens, and when you look on the picture online and in the books, you can hardly make out what's happening in the picture. Why is it that one of these gods don't come and sit down in McDonald's and treat you and pay for your meal so that you know that God is really there and it's not just your imagination? Because if it's your imagination and you eat the food and trying to walk out, they're going to say, hey, you didn't pay for your food. But if they're not asking you for the money, that means that God that was standing beside you there was seen by you and everybody and actually handed money and paid for your food. We need some proof. Otherwise, I have to stick with what the Most High said, that these are the imaginations of men's hearts. Anyway, this is just about the book here, so let me get back to the reading of it. All this fallen angel stuff is just like, it's just kind of strange to me. And preserved for the ages, storytelling and poetry, and are preserved for the ages in the works of classical Greek writers. And every time I saw classical Greek writers from when I was a small child, I thought, oh, so big, and it's official sounding and truthful, right? Because it's just a name. That's just what they call them. They call them classical Greek writers. That don't mean they're telling no truth. All they are just classical dreamers and classical imaginations that they're dealing with, right? That got written down. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey and Herod's Theogony incorporate most of the characters and themes of classical Greek mythology. And none of those people that did all that writing down of these mythologies loved Torah, loved the Creator, and taught Torah. None of them. The Theogony, in fact, describes the origin and history of the gods. See that? The origin and history of the gods. So you get people describing the origin of gods, the origin of them, who don't care anything about Torah. How can you tell truth if you don't have anything to do with Torah? Then everything you say must be born out of deception. According to this work, the same emptiness in which the universe began was chaos. Again, see, that seems like a lie to me. From chaos sprang, I mean, they're trying to tell you that the verse right there in the beginning, he made the earth and the earth was without form and void. It just seems kind of strange to me, because immediately after that, well, before that, it says he made the heaven and the earth. And the heaven and the earth, to me, today, looks like very great work that no one else could duplicate. So the Most High is going to sit down and make something that's mashed up and bad? What then does that tell of the future when he says he's going to restore us to a land and it's going to be even better than the Garden of Eden and whatever? Then all I would have to say is that he hasn't shown yet that he makes great things. So the future could just be another chaotic world. The Most High don't make stuff like that, right? But that's for another video. And actually after that, the next thing that happened after they say chaos is that there's a description of how wonderful everything was made when he made all the sun, the moon, stars, everything, and the trees or whatever. And every time he's making this stuff, he's like, yeah, it's good. He pulled back. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's the first day. It's the second day. It's the third day. Everything is good, 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 good. That seems more like the Creator I can believe in, right? Makes sense to me, because why am I going to trust him to order my life when the steps of a good man are ordered by the Most High? But that same Creator can't order himself properly to accomplish a proper creation of the world? And you want to order my steps when you're making a mashed up world? No, there must be another understanding to that. That's why I say I'm rereading the Bible now. And you see, because a lot of us come out of the Christian church and other religions where we were taught all these lies about the Creator and about the Bible and so on and about, you know, and we let go of some basic things, yeah, in order to take on Torah, studying and living and so on, right? But there's still, as I find with myself, a lot of thoughts that have to be eroded away, right? You got to wash them away, like the Bible speaks of the washing of water with the word, right? You got to wash that stuff away, right? Let truth come in and just take away all those improper teachings in your mind, right? These two rulers of the universe became parents Okay, let me skip some of that, but they're just mentioning some other gods. Now you can see here that I'm showing some of the gods that they had from the Greeks on Olympus: Apollo, Athena, Hermes, and Aphrodite and Zeus. Okay, and the celestial gods. Okay, alright, let me just mention some of the other names here. Rulers of the universe became parents of the Titans. From two of the Titans, Cronus and Rhea, came 6 children who were known as the gods. So it's like they're just generating gods every time somebody sits down and they can't poo properly in the toilet, so they sit there too long, then they just come up with another god. They're too drunk and whatever, and they get whatever, their minds start going off and they're making up other gods. They won a battle, they feel joyful now, they make up another god to thank for the victory that they got in that war. But they still don't know the creator, still don't. They just make up stuff, right? The celestial gods were thought to dwell in the sky or on Mount Olympus in Thessaly. So here it is. The celestial gods were thought to dwell in the sky. So you see their mind at work again, right? And earthbound, okay, maybe you say, okay, they can't get up there, but earthbound deities were believed to live on or under the earth. And so I'm like, okay, well, you can't see your celestial gods in the sky. And you say, well, you can't see the Hebrew God either, the creator. Well, okay, but then that's fine, because he says, you don't see me. So that takes care of it, but he shows himself in other ways, which is not going to be dealt with right here in the video. But he shows himself, right? But he was there from the start. And you get these gods that just came up from people who are just thinking things, and they come out and they tell the other people around him, right? But the God of the Old Testament showed his power and his presence by demonstrating it not just to the children of Israel, but to the other nations that met this God in battle by facing off with his people. Those nations have the stories that they tell that said their God is fearful. Their God is the real God. So these other nations prove that our power is the real power. And so now, okay, there's celestial gods in the sky, but now they go on imagining more stupid things, and they say earthbound deities were believed to live on or under the earth. So they believed the celestial ones were up in the sky. Okay, they can't get there. Well, why didn't they prove these earthbound ones, since they can get to the earthbound locations? If the earthbound deities were believed to live on or under the earth, why they don't go there and look for them on the earth, up in Mount Olympus or wherever, or go dig under the earth where they said they're living? Why they don't dig? They dig to make tunnels. They dig to make underground cities and all that. Why they don't dig to go under? I would think that you would more dig to find your God, so that you can get more power by connecting with him directly. Leading the ranks of the deities was Zeus, who was believed, again, they just believed him. Apparently they didn't try to confirm anything with him by digging to find him or going up in the mountain in the sky to go and actually talk to him. They just believed something about him. And every child that grows up hearing these stories, they just believe that as well, right? And make up another god when they get old enough. Who was believed to be the father of the gods and men. Hera, his wife, was the queen of the heavens and the goddess of marriage. Now, know that that's coming from like Semiramis and so on, going way back, right? But I'm just sticking with the Greeks here. But at about the time when the Israelites were still up and running, the prophets were still there, this same Hera, although they don't use the name there, but as far as I can see, this is Hera, right? The queen of the heavens and the goddess of marriage, which the Israelites even refused to deal with. I hear this Hera is the queen mother of heaven. Now, if you look here in Jeremiah chapter 7 and verse 18, it says, the children gather wood and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the queen of heaven. And they're still doing that stuff today, where certain holiday times, although not only, you see food or pastry being made in the shapes of Christmas trees, or in the shape of certain figures. And that's coming from ancient times when people were making cakes in the shapes of gods. Asherah cakes to Asherah or Astarte, right? They're making cakes for their gods in the shape of these gods, and then they would eat the cakes with the shape of the gods that they imagined that the god looked like that, or they just made a shape as a representative thing to connect with in their mind. And by eating these foods, they're like imbued now with the power of that god, or they are showing their devotion, because they're not ingesting the god, they're taking in. It's like this infilling with the Holy Ghost, you say, right? Like your God is coming inside of you, right? I mean, your God is shown to be inside of you by having truth inside of you. That's why the Most High says, the scripture says he desires truth in the inward parts, because that's how you know the Most High is inside of your heart, because you got truth in there. But these guys are eating all these cakes and so on, to try to show that their God, the spirit of their God is in them, which they imagined. They made cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. So even back then, the Most High is complaining that these Israelites are doing these things, and they got it from these other nations. And so this same Queen of Heaven now, or Queen Mother of Heaven, her name Hera, look at it here. Wikipedia is saying Hera is the goddess of women and marriage in Greek mythology and religion. She's married to her brother Zeus and is titled as the Queen of Heaven, and we just read that in Jeremiah 7 verse 18. Here's from GreekGodsandGoddesses.net. Greek goddess of marriage and queen of Olympus. Hera is the queen of the gods and is the wife and sister of Zeus, the Olympian pantheon. Here's from another website, theoi.com. Hera was the Olympian queen of the gods and the goddess of marriage, woman, the sky, and the stars of heaven. Right? So this is who even the children of Israel worshipping, right? Which made the Most High mad. Let me just read the rest here, try to close this out. The greater gods of the heaven were Hephaestus, the god of fire, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, Apollo, god of light, music, and poetry, Artemis, goddess of wildlife and the moon, Ares, god of war, and so when you look at like even wildlife, I guess that could probably include or mean they're wondering at their creation, right? That the Most High has made, including the animals. Because sometimes they're walking through certain wilderness areas or forest areas and they're scared as hell at night. And next thing you know, some animal come and move at them. They don't know if it's people trying to attack them from some other tribe or nation, or wild animals are coming to kill them for food or whatever, right? They're scared as hell, so they need a God in their mind to comfort them while they're going through all that stuff and to protect them, right? And so what you think in your mind comforts you. That's why sometimes people going through tragedies and so on, they think certain things that they flip in their mind and think something pleasant when something bad is really going on, like some shocking news they got. So they think something nice is going on in their mind because that's how they deal with it, because thoughts comfort you. So they think of these gods to comfort themselves, right? There were also lesser deities such as nymphs and so on. Okay, I don't need any more of that. But all of these deities were the subject of specific myths or tales, so they made them up. No divine revelation or communication. They were just myths and tales that they made up. So they didn't get any visitation from no real fallen angel that came and revealed himself to them and say, here I am, I'm in your Bible. No. And talk to them and saying this and that, whatever, right? And this Satan, nobody really seems to see him except people tell you that they see him, but he never seems to show up to the rest of us who want to find him out. Yeah, so there you go. This one here dealing with the Greeks who imagined and made up their gods. These are my thoughts on it, and I'll post up some more when I find some more information about these made up gods.